A Song Can Change Your Life is made possible by a grant from the Fulton County Virtual Arts Initiative. Recognizing the therapeutic value of the arts and the need to support the creative community during the COVID pandemic, the Fulton County Virtual Arts Initiative offers operational support to enhance the arts sector's ability to present virtual arts programs and creative engagement opportunities for Fulton County residents and visitors. A Song Can Change Your Life is recorded in the Black Box at the Alpharetta Arts Center, located at 238 Canton Street, Alpharetta. To learn more about programs and events at the Alpharetta Arts Center, go to alpharetta.ga.us and search Arts Center, or click the link located on our website, asongcanchangeyourlife.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to A Song Can Change Your Life, where we talk with one songwriter, one-on-one, about one of their songs. My name is James, and we're here at the Alpharetta Arts Center in beautiful downtown Alpharetta, Georgia. My special guest today is Cindy Morgan. Cindy is a 2-time Grammy nominee, a 13-time Dove Award winner. She's a great songwriter. She's written songs for Vince Gill, India Arie, Rascal Flatts, Ricky Skaggs, Amy Grant, Michael W. Smith, on and on. She's inside the Black Box right now, and I thought it would be fun if I joined her on a couple of songs. So let's go inside the Black Box here at the Alpharetta Arts Center and meet the very, very talented Cindy Morgan.
These four walls seem ready to give. It's like they know where the weak point is, so I sit and stare. Dirty dishes stacked up in the sink. Speak a word and you're out on the brink of a giant terror. And you wait and you wonder and you push against the dark. Going under, wishing someone felt the beat of that breaking heart. The devil whispers that he's your friend. He comes calling when the door's unhinged. Will you let him in? Leaves in the pathway, grown up through the stones. Neighbors wonder if anyone's home since the lights grew dim. And you wait and you wonder and you push against the dark. Every day going under, wishing someone felt the beat of that breaking heart, yeah. Wait for rescue, pray for a sign, for someone to read your mind. Oh.
I think a lot of things motivate songwriters to write certain songs. I think we write so much obviously from personal experience, from observation of other people, but there are some songs that I think are truly kind of like a diary therapy, where you're writing a song in hopes that you can work through whatever issue that you have. And so this song for me, I felt like it was ruminating for a lot of years, and so I was really grateful when it finally came out. And so I wrote this with my good friend Jeremy Bowes. One, two,
Here I go on down the road of twists and turns and bends. You'd have thought I'd learned by now. Here I go again. It won't add a day to your life. Sure won't help you sleep at night. Lord, I sure am tired of this fight. Worry, why do I worry? Why do I doubt thee? What do I do it for? I'm gonna trust you, and this time I mean it. I'm gonna leave it at your door. All this fear, it binds me up and ties me to the floor. Wish I wouldn't answer when it's knocking on my door. 'Cause not a sparrow falls to the ground that you don't turn your head to the sound and pick it up so sweetly in your hand. Ooh, worry, why do I worry? Why do I doubt thee? What do I do it for? I'm gonna trust you, and this time I mean it. I'm gonna leave it at your door. These words best be sinking in. They're more than just a phrase. Matthew wrote what Jesus spoke, and that's a worn out page. Ooh, worry, why do I worry? Why do I doubt thee? What do I do it for? I'm gonna trust you, and this time I mean it. I'm gonna leave it at your door. I'm gonna trust you, and this time I mean it. I'm gonna leave it at your door. Worry, worry, worry.
Cindy Morgan, welcome to A Song Can Change Your Life. Welcome back to Alpharetta.
Thank you. I'm so happy.
You've been here before.
Oh, yes. It's such a beautiful little town. I forgot how quaint and charming it was.
Yeah, and this facility is pretty cool, too.
Yeah. And this is new, right?
Relatively new, yeah. It was an old library they converted to an art center, and
so
this black
cool.
box is really one of the cool features of this place.
I love it. I love it.
And you wore the shawl to match the...
I did, you know.
You're so fashion conscious. You and I last saw each other in March. The last time I got to play music at a piano in front of people was in Nashville in March at the Bluebird. And I remember thinking after all the chaos hit this year that if that's the last time I get to play, I'm okay.
It's
I'm
okay.
I got to play with Cindy Morgan, man. Hey, you grew up in East Tennessee, is that right? Mm-hmm. And I'm very curious because I know a little bit about you. I think you grew up in a log cabin.
Yes.
Would you just describe what it was like, your childhood, like what growing up in East Tennessee in a log cabin was like?
East Tennessee in a log cabin. So the way my family was, my parents are both from Harlan County, Kentucky. Mm-hmm. So that's like where all the documentaries were made about murder and moonshine, you know.
And the coal mining, right?
Yes, and coal mining. And so my parents were very much a part of that culture. And actually for the last 6+ years, I've been working on like a record documentary about my family, my grandfather specifically, and just the life that they lived there. And so I've really dug into it quite a bit. And so for me, you know, my parents growing up in the middle of nowhere in Kentucky, it meant that we have to find somewhere in the middle of nowhere to live in East Tennessee. So it was like they were always seeking out like the dirt road with the most potholes, as far away from everything as possible. And so, and then like go a little farther and then let's build a house there, you know? So they were very much isolators. Uh-huh. So we lived, you know, in this tiny log cabin that had been built by a guy named Bob Odell. And, you know, a lot of acres, and so it was a 2-bedroom log cabin with a wood burning cook stove. The fireplace was our
And how
warmth.
many of you were in the house?
So it was me, my brother was in the Army at that point, and so I think my 2 sisters, so like 6 of us.
In a 2-room house in a log cabin in a remote part of East Tennessee.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And I remember one specific time when my dad got in this feud with the electric company because we'd gotten like a bill for $500, and he was like, hey.
It's impossible.
It's not possible. And they're like, the computer says it's right. And he's like, the computer is wrong. Yeah. Well, you either pay it. You know, my dad's a mechanic trying to, you know, support all of us and on bare bones, and well, you pay it or we're shutting it off. And he's like, shut it down, you know. And so we lived for 6 months without electricity.
Really?
Yeah, and we had a generator, and so my dad would like plug it in for an hour at night, and so that we could watch the news, maybe watch the Andy Griffith Show, and you know, I could blow dry my hair, and that was kind of it. And so we kind of lived like pioneers for a while.
Wow!
And it was really cool. And I just remember in the winter, my dad would get up and he would build a big fire. And it was just so cold, you know, but he would build a big fire long before I got up. And so I would get up and like run to the fireplace and stand there and warm up. And so I'm kind of grateful for that experience. You know, it had a river that ran around it.
But that's not an easy experience either.
It didn't feel hard to me.
Yeah.
It did not feel difficult because, I mean, I think any experience, and when that happened, most of my siblings had left the nest, so it was kind of me and my dad, and I think my sister Tammy at that point. But, you know, it was an experience in terms of like what we're talking about, in that returning to a sense of simplicity. And
you didn't know anything else, right?
I didn't really know anything else. I mean, and so, and you know, I mean, Yeah, we were really excited when the power came back on, but there was a little part of me that was sad.
Did you have, so did you have other kids to play with when you grew up in the area?
Oh, no. I mean,
So,
there were,
so it was just, you guys were
Yeah.
really isolated. So I'm curious about, so I know your dad was a musician too, correct? And your mom too. So,
both songwriters as well.
yeah, so I'm sort of connecting dots on how you
Yeah.
became you. And so without that other stimuli around you, it's, I imagine music was a huge part of your youth.
Yeah. I mean, I was a very melancholy child, and but I spent a lot of time. I had a little, my little notebook. We had a sand road that led up to our house, and it ran along the creek. And I would go, and I would just sit in the sand, and I would write poems and lyrics, and I would spend a ton of time in the creek, and a lot of time thinking, just like, I don't know, being in nature. So I had a lot of quiet. And then, my dad, especially, my mom traveled, she was a gospel singer, and she traveled a lot during my childhood. And so my dad was there. He was really kind of that more of a steady influence in terms of just being there all the time. But but my dad would lay on the couch, and we had an old upright piano. And my dad would lay on the couch, and I would play him songs on the old upright, and he would just listen, and he would fall asleep, or he was just a really nurturing person to me creatively. And I think because both parents understood the pursuit of music, they never said, "Oh, you should get a real job."
Right.
It was, they were not stage parents in any way. I mean, not at all.
But they guided you when you started showing interest.
Well, yeah, I mean, if I needed an instrument, I didn't have lessons or anything.
But did they teach you chords, progressions, or
No,
you just
I
figured
just
it out?
did it on my own. But I grew up because my dad was always in a band, and his band members are still, I'm still very close to the guys he was in his band with. And so my childhood was like them having rehearsals in our living room, and I think I just felt such a connection to even that community of musicians and the spirit of music.
And so at what age were you intrigued by, or did you become even conscious of writing music versus a lot of kids absorb music, they hear music, they sing
Right.
along to TV, but I'm always fascinated by songwriters of when did you first realize that I can express myself through melody and lyrics?
So before we moved to the holler, it's what we call it. We lived in a holler.
Yes,
It was
ma'am.
called Snake Holler, by the way.
Oh, man.
And it had snakes. Yes. But
I wouldn't
my
have come
dad
with you.
killed a snake in the living room one summer.
Oh, man.
Yeah. But anyway, but before we moved down there, we lived in a small town called Harrogate, Tennessee. That was like 20 minutes from the holler where we ended up moving. But my grandfather, Barney, had restored this old baby grand. And so, and that was the piano so I wrote my first song on that piano when I was 5.
Really?
It was called "The Sun Is Hot."
Well, it's factual.
It was, yeah, and pretty literal, but it was really there was minors and
That's amazing.
it's so weird, but it really was. I started at 5. I started writing songs when I was 5, and I didn't stop.
Wow. I couldn't tie my shoes at 5. So that's amazing.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know why. I think everyone I guess what I was kind of saying about therapy, and there was a lot of, my brother Samuel, he died a year before that. My brother died I was a year younger than him, and he had lymphoma. And so my parents had walked through that. It was very, very difficult, as you can imagine. And so I was a year younger. I was 4, and Samuel was a week away from his 5th birthday when he died. And so I kind of, I kind of believe walking through the kind of heartache that my parents went through with, his decline, I think that's in some ways what made me a writer. And that's why, it's weird that we're talking about this because I think it's kind of dawning on me right now, which is kind of crazy, but I think that's a big part of why I started writing so early, because I was trying to process that loss and their grief, because like kids really, how do you process that?
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of think maybe that's why.
And did you sense when you started writing a joy or support from your parents that this was really, you felt that approval, and it was like, okay, yeah, I'm enjoying it, but I'm also seeing this relationship built with my parents and approval, so I want to do more.
Well, yeah, and I think for me it is, it always, writing and music for me is a comfort. It like comforts me. It's my balm in Gilead, and I think my parents, because, my dad had really had a shot to really kind of go for it as a country music singer-songwriter, but he chose to kind of live the stable,
Take care of the family.
Yep. And so I think, my mom, pursued hers, but I think they saw me maybe living out the dream that they didn't really get to. And so I don't feel like they fussed at me over, my brother playing football. It was my sister also sang. She sounded like Karen Carpenter. She had a beautiful voice. My brother, he could kind of, he could sing the blues, but I was kind of the only one that felt enough of that kind of, I just can't stop myself from doing it, So they were very encouraging, but I didn't feel like if I didn't do it, they'd have been disappointed,
So you're writing songs, you're singing them, but you're in the middle of nowhere, and you got signed really young to a deal in your early 20s, right? And that first record,
I think like 20 or 20.
Yeah. So that's really young. But so how do you go from this place of isolation, singing in the cabin, to getting the attention of folks in Nashville that ends up getting you a deal and launching a career for you?
Well, I definitely feel like that was, I had a good friend, Jimmy Bryant. He was a singer-songwriter, and he and I, I met him at church, and he was a little older than me, but we would like run around and like write songs. And we were, if you grow up in a small southern town and you want to be a writer, a songwriter, there aren't many people in your town that want to, so you kind of find each other. And he loved to enter talent contests. I hated to enter talent contests because, he was always entering us in some talent contest where, he sang and then I sang. And I was like, why are we doing this? Because what's going to happen is like cloggers are going to be there and they're going to like clog to Rocky Top and we're going to lose.
Exactly.
Because the audience is going to go crazy. And it doesn't even matter if they are lame cloggers.
It's clogging to Rocky Top.
They are winning. We're in Tennessee. And so anyway, so sometimes I would be like, no, I'm not doing it. And then sometimes I would surrender and do it. So this one time he said, hey, Dollywood is doing, it's like the opening weekend of Dollywood, and they're doing this thing, it's like the National Mountain Music Festival, and it's a huge contest, and you have to do submissions, and they only take, it's like all these submissions, and you have to submit something, and then only like 50 people get, accepted out of like 5,000, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. And so he went behind my back, entered me against my will, and then was like, we made it in. I'm like, made what in? So anyway, So so we went, and you do all these different levels of competing. So he and I made it to get. I mean, we were singing individually, but we made it, to the second or third level, both of us, and then that last the next level, he didn't and I did. And so anyway, and then that night, the night, the kind of culmination, Dolly was hosting with Hoyt Axton.
Wow.
And they were going to do the whole thing on WIVK.
Yeah.
And they were just going to it was just a radio show. They weren't televising it, but it was all of the finalists were going to compete, and they were going to name a grand prize winner. So I won it.
Wow.
And that's how, so I got a contract to work at Dollywood. And so I worked at Dollywood and worked at a studio in the off season. And by doing that, I did a demo in the studio. And that was sent by my friend Kirk Talley from the Talleys. It was a Southern gospel group. He sent it to an A&R guy in Nashville, John Mays, who was A&R at Word Records.
Wow.
And that's how I got signed.
Wow.
Trying to avoid cloggers.
Is that not divine providence?
It's,
because you had,
yeah.
not that you had nothing to do with it, because you developed the talent, but it's these people around you that did stuff that helped you.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. And just so you know, Jimmy Bryant, he was kind of like a real musical kind of like, his voice was like amazing, like for the stage. So he went on to have a long career as a stage actor and dancer at Dollywood, and now he directs plays in Pigeon Forge. So it's funny how our paths took very different, different directions, but he also has gone on and had a full career in music.
Man, so you get the folks' attention in Nashville. Did you immediately move?
No, I drove back and forth. So I would drive from Knoxville. I was living in Knoxville at the time. I'd moved to Knoxville. And so I was driving from Knoxville to Nashville twice a week on my days off. I was working at the mall. And I drove down to have lunch with John, and Kirk went with me. And over Mexican, it must have been in the salsa or something, he offered me a development deal right there.
Wow.
And so then I had to drive, 2 days a week to come to Nashville and work on songs with Mark Hammond, our buddy and drummer, amazing drummer and producer, obviously. But yeah, and then I finally kind of took the plunge and moved to Nashville.
And so that first record you put out in the contemporary Christian market, what I found interesting, because a lot of artists, young artists, when they get signed, the labels and the production people, they want to mold you, So here's how you're going to sound, and here's the songs you're going to sing. And so, but you do have your own voice by this point. I would think you have the confidence that I write these songs. This is what I want to say. But what I found interesting on that first record, I think I got the story correct, that of everything they recorded, the only solo write on that record turned out to be what maybe. At least when I first heard you was the song I recognized you by, a song called How Could I Ask for More? And that had to have been gratifying for you, that first record, to give you confidence, because you're getting hit with a lot of new stuff. But how did that song get cut on the record? Yeah,
well, you're absolutely right. It was, I think John Mays, who's my A&R guy, he felt that I had skill as a writer, but that it just needed to be honed, and I needed to grow more as a writer. And because it was, because Mark was doing these tracks, and it's what we call top line writing, where the melody is already established, and it's this whole track, and so it's kind of a backwards way of writing. It's something you have to learn to do. And so I was used to sitting at my piano and writing a song. And so they had a lot of skilled writers like Jeff Thurman, different writers that they were very comfortable with, that were writing these top line lyrics for Mark's tracks.
Were you disappointed in this process when you got signed? Did you imagine in your head that when you got signed that they were going to let you write everything of your own, you just bring it in, or did you have a sense that I'm going to lose control?
I mean, I think I was not. I think I didn't have a clear idea of exactly what was going to happen, but there was that part of me that's like, I think I could write something to this, and I'd like to try and write something on this. So I did co-write lyrics on one lyric completely, and then another lyric that I co-wrote with another writer. But I had to fight for it, kind of. I had to kind of press my weight a little bit, and so, yeah, I think I was like, that East Tennessee girl in me was like, okay. I don't want to just be a mouthpiece.
Right.
That's not why I'm here.
Yeah.
And so, because for me, writing was the kind of real aim.
Yep.
But, you're young. It's like, you're just like, they've offered me a record deal and I was working at the mall.
Yeah,
so I said,
this is a better option. Yeah. To me, it seems like a real pivotal time for you. And the reason I brought that up was you get signed and there's got to be some maybe a little bit of doubt in your mind as far as where I'm headed, but you write this very honest thing that gets traction, and then your career keeps moving. But you had to have come out of that process, I would guess, as a more confident writer, and you continue to go down that more of a like pop, contemporary pop kind of vibe.
Right.
But I imagine all along you're continuing to gain confidence, and then and then your career goes into writing songs that other people start recording. The list of people who've cut is impressive, and you got people like Vince Gill and Ricky Skaggs and these other folks, and then over the last X amount of years, the stuff I've heard from you is really, I'm sensing goes back to your roots, more organic instrumentation, and again, you're evolving into this really honest songwriter. And last year you came out with Autumn and Eve? Mm-hmm. Last year you came out with Autumn and Eve, and that record, which we've played a lot of those songs at Home by Dark shows, and it's mandolin and banjo, your Uncle Barney's banjo you bring to the show.
My Grandpa Barney's banjo,
which is awesome.
Right. Yeah.
It's such a great connection.
I gotta say that the version that we do at Home by Dark is like, that is like one of my favorite musical moments.
When you pull out the Barney banjo?
No, but like just what you guys play on it.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys transform that song. I just love it.
The Home by Dark show, those musicians, everyone loves it when we have an artist like you come in with this precious song, and you allow us to connect with you and then interpret it a little bit.
Yeah.
You give us that freedom to do.
Yeah.
And when we have someone like you that does that with us, it's transformational for us as musicians.
I love it.
But it's a kudos to you to trust us enough to do that.
Well, you guys are very worthy of the trust because, but I remember the first time we did in the beginning, and I was like,
Yeah.
I wish we'd record. I wish I'd done it on the record like this.
And in the beginning was off this
Autumn and Eve
record,
which
brings up the song I want to focus on here, called "Dear Life," and the name of the show is "A Song Can Change Your Life." And this is one of those songs I imagine people hearing it at the right moment, at the right time, they're getting dented pretty good in their heart. It certainly sounds like it came from a deep place with you as well. So where'd the song come from? Where's the idea?
Yeah. Well, and I've been very, very private about this in my life, but I went through a divorce, and no one who's ever gone through a divorce, no matter how amiable, no matter how well you tried to handle yourself, through it, it's difficult. And I think I wrote this song, I was working on Autumn and Eve and was done. And I was done, and I was just in a pretty tough place. And that night, just like dealing with the inevitability of my life, and I just started I just started that figure on the guitar, and I ended up writing that song that night, having no intention of writing that song. And then I actually just recorded it the next day. I just went in, and it was just, but I think that there are a lot of people, coming from all sorts of different situations, where sometimes you feel like you're just kind of hanging on by a thread. But there is still something to hold on to. For me, it is my faith in God. That is what I hold on to. And then, in my family, in the last, and I haven't told you about this, but my brother was diagnosed with a malignant brain tumor a week and a half ago.
I'm sorry.
And yeah, I know. So, and here's the amazing thing. He had his surgery 3 days ago. And he woke up out of this, like, really kind of, can there be a more invasive surgery than having a golf-sized tumor removed from your brain? And he was completely lucid, and like, they're like, who's the president? Trump, 2020, and like, he was just knew exactly, and he had this, like, amazing attitude of hope, and because we were all scared, we were like, well, maybe it won't be malignant, maybe it'll be benign, like, it's like you hope all these things, and then, we get the news that it's not good news. It's not the news you wanted. But then he FaceTimes me the next morning after his surgery. He's got his little head wrapped up, and he's like, hey, sis. And he is so, like, this bright, kind of shining light. And I think it just, like, how is it possible that you have just, like, gone through this earth-shattering thing, and he is encouraging us, and so I was talking to him on the way down here, and he's got a long road ahead, with radiation and chemo, but to me, he never let go of that faith and that hope, and he is holding tight to it. And I just think, in the midst of when, like, whatever your situation is, like, if it's a death, if it's illness, if it's a divorce, or a heartbreak, or a betrayal, there is always hope. He has uplifted us all.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Oh, man. Well, some of the lyrics on that song I love, and I wanted you to get a comment on them a little bit, but I wish I knew how things get broken. Blade cuts you through, but you still keep on hoping. That could have been written for your brother, right? I think about it more than I ever thought I would, but I hear you say it's going to work out for my good. So I'm going to hold on for one more night. Hold on, dear life. Is that a prayer? Is that you're singing this to God?
Yeah. That's exactly what it is. Because I think no one knows how you're going to respond until you're in it.
Right.
And so that's me saying, all right, I'm going to trust you that this is going to be okay,
Yeah. The second verse goes, and then no one knows how to turn the clock back. Maybe in a million years, somebody's going to do that. Even if I did undo everything, we'd still be here, hanging on the brink, because we're only human. So you're confessing this. We're all fragile, right?
Yeah, and I think in any sort of situation when something's going down in flames. My brother, like, one of the things he said was he kept asking the surgeon, the neurosurgeon, he was like, what did I do? What did I do? Did I do something? Did I eat something?
Right.
And he said, no, it's just like some cells that went wrong. And so there is that part of us that wants to go, was it me? What could I have done differently?
Right.
Like, we think backwards, we want to turn the clock back and do it over. But, it's like it's the Eve question. It's like, would we have done something else,
Right.
And no, it's like we make the best decision we can in the moment.
Yeah.
And then we roll on.
Yeah, there's another quote. I love quotes.
I love quotes
and so
too.
there's another quote by Billy Graham. He says, "Don't fight life."
Wow.
You know, so it's not again.
Wow, that's good.
Not to qualify it, but I've always interpreted it as, all right, stuff's going to happen to you. Your brother didn't cause the brain tumor, right? Stuff's going to happen to you. So now that you're in it, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to move forward? How are you going to choose to focus and communicate? And we have much more power than we ever think we do. I think.
That's right.
And that third verse, this is a very honest one. Not that they're all honest, but I want to ask you about it. I guess there's some promises you can't keep. Later in life, it wakes you in your sleep. All the shattered pieces are burning in your eyes, and they tell you it gets easier. So far, that's a lie. Yeah, that's a lie. Talk to me about that verse, man. That's pretty candid there.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in East Tennessee in an evangelical, Christian conservative home. And, divorce was like the no. I mean, it's not what you do. I mean, it's just like
not an option.
Yeah, it's not an option. And so I think I really struggled with not keeping the promise. I really struggle with that, And I think I really, like, late at night, it wakes you in your sleep. I think I was like, I mean, am I like a disappointment to God, that I'm not keeping this promise, and all the shattered pieces are burning in your eyes. I mean, to me, it's like, sometimes tears feel like razor blades.
Yeah.
And I think, the person, it's like, don't sing songs to a troubled heart. People who are like, it gets easier. And you know what? They're right. It does. But when you're in it, you really don't want someone to tell you it gets easier.
Right.
You just need to, like, be in that moment and just, like,
you need to hurt.
And hurt and hold on.
Yeah, hold on. Just hold on. Since I'm on a quote roll, I heard this quote recently by Jordan Peterson is.
Oh yeah.
And he said life is full of suffering and difficulty, but we don't have to be miserable.
That's good.
And that's again, I'm pulling all these out of your songs. Like,
okay, I've got a song quote for you that I love. Writing is jumping off cliffs and building your wings on the way down.
Wow.
It's Annie Dillard.
Wow, that's really good.
Isn't that good?
Man.
And I think this song, for me, was kind of like that. I was jumping off the cliff going, I'm going to really, I'm never thinking about, maybe I'll record, you just, like, pour it out. And, but I think sometimes like in writing, you jump off a cliff and go, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But I'm going to build wings on the way down.
Well, yeah. And what's valuable about songs like this in particular, in my opinion, is, and why I think songwriters are so valuable is there are a lot of people in tough situations, and at the right time, the right moment, they can hear a song like this. And it gives them just enough encouragement and enough of evidence that, oh yeah, this person understands what I'm feeling. Mm-hmm. So I'm not alone.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And I haven't expressed it, but Cindy Morgan has expressed it for me. And so that simple feeling of I'm not alone in this is enough sometimes to keep people going for another day.
That's right.
Another week until the next break. So
that's right.
A song can change your life. This one changes lives, Cindy. And thank you for writing it. Thank you for being our guest.
Thank you. I loved it.
And I hope to see you again soon.
I do too.
All right.
Wish I knew how scared.